this morning. So glad to have you all here. I know they're all a little tired. Some of them have been out late last night, and some of them have been doing things all day yesterday to keep them busy, and they're a little sore. I know some of you guys can relate, can't you? I'm so glad. I'm so glad that we get to sing songs like "He Knows My Name." In our Sunday school this morning, we talked about how John got a vision of who Jesus was when Jesus, in the end of Revelation, when Jesus comes back, and he almost looks completely different, and John's a little bit terrified, and Jesus calls out his name, John, and everything's all better, because the very next thing he says is, peace. Peace. This is okay. And he goes on and tells him that there's some things I want you to do, and I want you to write for me. And the rest of Revelation is the revelation of what Jesus has given him. But it made me think about a little earlier, right before even Jesus ascended, Jesus had just risen from the grave. And in John chapter 20, John again, the same guy, John chapter 20, he talks about that Jesus had risen from the grave and appeared to Mary, and that he told her that she should go and tell the rest of the disciples that I'm alive. And that very night, he appeared to the disciples in their room, and they all got to see that. The scars on his hands and the scars on his side, and they were excited. But one person was gone. His name was Thomas. And I kind of like Thomas. Thomas is a twin. Did you know that I'm a twin? So I kind of have a good thing going with Thomas. And Thomas gets a bad rap because he's not there, and yet Thomas says, I'm not going to believe. I'm not going to believe until I can put my hands in the scars of his hands or into his side. I'm not going to believe. You know that Jesus, knowing all that he knows, and knowing Thomas like he knew Thomas, about a week later, he appears to the disciples again. And guess who's in the room with him this time? Thomas, that's right. Thomas is there. And Jesus doesn't waste any time. He deliberately goes, Thomas, come feel my hands. Come feel my side. And Thomas goes, you know what? Jesus, all I got to do is see you. And that's enough for me. And Jesus goes on to say, you know what? You see and you believe. But how much more so? The people who don't see me and still believe. And that's us. You know, we get to be a part of that. Jesus is talking about us during that time. People, we haven't seen Jesus yet. We see Jesus working in other people and through other things. We haven't seen Jesus yet. And yet, how much more blessed are we that we who haven't seen Jesus yet? So I want you to take this with you this week. We just talked about, we know people that we need to tell others about Jesus, and that they need to come to that saving knowledge. We may not be able to physically see Jesus, but we can tell others about what Jesus has done, and that they'll be in heaven with us. Okay? I'll leave you with that, and then we'll go to Children's Church in just a minute. Okay? Gracious Heavenly Father, love you so much, and love these children. I'm glad they are here today, get to hear your word. I'm glad that we have a passion for them, but also that they have a passion for their friends, and that they know other people that need to be saved as well. May you give them boldness and courage that they might go and tell others as well. Your name we pray, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Good morning. Thank you, Andy. And I do believe. I'm reading in Psalms 119. Again, we're towards the latter part of it. I'm in verse 137 through 144. It says, Righteous are you, O Lord, and right are your rules. You have appointed your testimonies in righteousness and all faithfulness. My zeal consumes me because my foes forget your words. Your promise is well tried, and your servant loves it. I am small and despised, yet I do not forget your precepts. Your righteousness is righteous forever, and your law is true. Trouble and anguish have found me out, but your commandments are my delight. testimonies are righteous forever. Give me understanding that I may live.
So if you would take your Bibles and turn with me to Judges chapter 2. We're going to look at the overall cycle of Judges. So Judges chapter 2, starting with about verse 16, so that we can understand it. The summary is basically right there, again and again and again and again. Starting with verse 16, the Lord raised up judges, or go back to 14. The Lord's anger burned against Israel, and he handed them over to marauders who raided them. He sold them to the enemies around them, and they could no longer resist their enemies. Whenever the Israelites went out, the Lord was against them, brought disaster on them, just as he had promised and sworn to them. That's back in Deuteronomy. Okay? But so they suffered greatly. The Lord raised up judges who saved them from the power of their marauders, but they did not listen to their judges. Instead, they prostituted themselves with other gods. Bowing down to them, they quickly turned from the way of their fathers, who had walked in obedience to the Lord's commands. They did not do as their fathers did. Whenever the Lord raised up a judge for the Israelites, the Lord was with him and saved the people from the power of their enemies while the judge was still alive. The Lord was moved to pity whenever they groaned because of those who were oppressing and afflicting them. Whenever that judge died, the Israelites would act even more corruptly than their fathers, following other gods to serve them and bow and worship to them. They did not turn from their evil practices or their obstinate ways. The Lord's anger burned against Israel, and he declared, because this nation has violated my covenant that I made with their fathers and disobeyed me, I will no longer drive out before them any of the nations Joshua left when he died. I did this to test Israel and see whether or not they would keep the Lord's way by walking in it as their fathers did. The Lord left these nations and did not drive them out immediately. He did not hand them over to Joshua. So what we have happening is this. They've gone into the promised land, and they are supposed to drive out everybody. But in fact, they don't. And what you get here for is basically the summary of the entire cycle in the book of Judges. They come in, they're doing okay, and then they're not doing okay. And then they get into trouble, and then God sends a deliverer. Sometimes they cry out for the deliverer. Sometimes the Lord simply looks and takes pity on them, and they're delivered for a little while. And then they turn from God. God sends the marauders, the oppression, and it goes on and goes on and goes on. And basically, they arrive in the promised land, and then there was work to be done. There was more for them to do than they ever actually got done, because they were supposed to drive out all of the people that were there. And they didn't. Joshua did his part, and the people who had followed right after him, who had led the people of Israel alongside Joshua, did their part, but then the next generation just kind of faltered on the job. And so they fell. And then God raises up a deliverer and replaces them, and takes care of them, and then they have peace for a while, they walk in obedience for a while, and then they fall. And you can see this, if you ever read through all of Judges, you'll see this. After this judge, they have 80 years of peace. They're faithful for 80 years. After this judge, they're faithful for 40 years. After this judge, they immediately turn their hearts away from the Lord and go straight on back into wickedness. And then finally they reach a point that there's not even a judge to raise up. They've just fallen apart completely, and that's how the book ends. And it's a cycle that just keeps on going. And it's a similar cycle to what we see in our own lives. Because it works like this. I have a habit or a sin that besets me, a trouble that falls upon me, and I vow that I'm never going to go that way again. I'm never going to do that again. And so for a little while, I'm able to hold up my end of that. I'm able to, through the strength of my will and through the help of some other people around me, I'm able to not fall into that trap. And then after a while, it wears off. After a while, my friend doesn't call me on Mondays anymore to ask if I'm doing okay and double check on this. this doesn't happen, that doesn't happen. I managed to get away with it and sneak past for a little while, and then I fall back into it. Most of us have had these problems. We tend to chalk it up and say, well, that's just something that happens to addicts, for example. Somebody who's an alcoholic, they're, oh, no, I'm going to quit drinking. And they're able to set it aside, sometimes for a week, sometimes for a month, sometimes for a year. But then eventually it catches back up to them. Oh, I'm going to quit smoking. But it's worse than that, in that we all tend to do this. Oh, I'm going to quit gossiping. Well, except for this one time. Oh, I'm going to quit complaining about everything around me. Well, except for now, do you not realize just how bad it is? I mean, it's time to complain. It got hot. The lawnmower died. This happened, that happened. The fridge died. The power was out a day longer than I really could stand it. We find one more thing to complain about. I'm gonna break my habit. I'm gonna break the stranglehold that pornography has on my life. But then, it just was so tempting to go, this was such a good movie. Everybody talked really good about this movie, and I know that there was 5 minutes there that really just sent me right back down the drain. But I didn't want to be left out. And besides, when the next season of this comes on, I'm going to watch it, even though I'm pouring filth into my head from it. I'm going to break my addiction to spending money. Except there's a sale at Penny's. I mean, we can't help it. We end up in this cycle. We end up in this cycle as a church. Oh, we're going to do this. We've got Becca back from Indonesia, and we're going to get excited about missions. And we've got the backpacks to do. We're going to get excited about trying to serve our local schools and kids that have needs. And then come September, where are we? You see, we get in this cycle about positive things too. Oh, we're going to do this. It takes a little bit more work than we thought it would. Maybe we should just kind of slip back and, you know what, that's actually, I don't agree with the overall theology that sets up that there are specific deadly sins, but sloth is one of them, and it's really a bad one for us. Because we tend to fall into that one, because it's a lot easier to park it on the couch and hope things come out better. And hope somebody else picks up and does the work, because, man, I'm just so tired. And besides, we keep doing all this work, and it does, do we get what we want? Not exactly, so we cycle down. We fall into it as a nation. Oh, we're going to do this, which is right. Oh, but wait a minute, there's complications of doing that which is right as a city, as a state, as a nation. It takes a whole lot of effort and a whole lot of energy. We get on a move that, oh wait, we're going to do this. We're going to do what's right for kids. We're going to do what's right for the unborn. We're going to do what's right for senior citizens. We're going to do what's right for this or for that. Ooh, wait a minute. I was okay with doing what was right until I realized just exactly how that was going to affect my income taxes. On second thought, maybe we can wait. Maybe it can wait a little while before we do that. We're going to do what's right. We're going to do what's right as a church for kids in need of foster care and in need of adoption. Oh wait, Walter and Nina got that taken care of. The rest of us don't have to do anything. Which is completely, first of all, untrue. Walter and Nina got extra kids to feed. They now have 6 kids instead of 2. And guess what? This week Walter's got to go back to work. Drop a fried chicken by their house, they can use a hand, just like we would do for somebody who just had a baby or just got out of the hospital. Most of your Sunday school classes would rally around you and help you out. Well, guess what? His Sunday school class, some of them, I really and truly, I don't know that I would want them to cook meals for. I love y'all in the young adult class, but some of y'all, I have yet to be thoroughly convinced. Yes, mac and cheese is great, but there's other things. You have to have a balanced meal when you're feeding children. Okay? So, come alongside and help out. But on top of that, the rest of us need to be looking as well at this question of, hey, is there not space in our hearts? Not only, to embrace and encourage those who have done this, but to help out. Are there things that we can do? So, I tried that once and then it didn't work out. Well, maybe you should try it again. what are the things that we do where it's the right thing to do? But then we step away from it and we fall back into that cycle of not doing. You see, the people of Israel didn't just fall into the cycle of doing that which is evil. They got there first by starting over here by not doing what was right. Which is frequently where we start, and we think that this is okay because we just need a break. Just tired, just need a little break. And it's true that from time to time, you need to take a rest. Every 7 days, actually. That's in the book too. Did you know that refusing to actively take time to reflect and draw near to God and to let God do His work is as sinful as anything else? That's one of the sayings, we count working ourselves to death as positive. We'll murder ourselves in disobedience to the Sabbath and count that as a good thing. Stop and think about that. It's a commandment too. Okay? Don't steal from the Lord the time that you owe Him. And you were made to need that. And there's research that the stack is about that thick that proves it. You wonder what's wrong with you? Answer this question. When's the last time that you rested and learned to trust God with the fact that, no, you didn't get everything done this week. Guess what? You're not going to get everything done next week. But I think it's as true as Kathy said of chicken sandwiches as it is of a life that it is more profitable in 6 days than it is in 7. That if you add that 7th day in, actually what you do is wear down quicker. But we don't like to live that way because nobody else does. Guess what, folks? We're followers of Christ. We're supposed to live differently. We ought to stand out and have people look at us and say, that's just crazy. You're right, it is. We fall into this trap. And the difference is this: only Jesus can break this cycle. Only Jesus can break the cycle in your family where every year there's always a problem. Only Jesus can break the cycle in your family, parents, where you can't figure out how to get your kids to do what you want them to do without yelling, screaming at them, and threatening. Now, eventually, you may have to do that. Actually, you should never threaten your children because threat is empty. Follow through on your promises. If you say this is what's going to happen to you, that's what happens. Let your kids know that you're going to be consistent. If you say something good's going to happen, that can happen. You say something bad's going to happen, they should never have to wonder what happens when you get to 10. You really don't even need to count. Do this. No. Want to bet? You say, oh, you don't know my kids. I know your kids. They're sinners just like mine. Just like me and just like you. They're sinners in need of a Savior and in need of God's grace. What's going to break the cycle in your family? What's going to break the cycle between you and your husband, you and your wife, where things don't work like they should because you just don't get along, because you fight all the time, because this doesn't go right and that doesn't go right, and you find yourself yelling and screaming at each other? By the way, you wonder why your kids don't react well? How do you treat the other adult in the household? It's worth considering. Your kids pick up on that too. You say, well, fortunately I don't have kids in the household, I don't have a spouse in the household. That's okay, you got other people you interact with. You treat them and you interact with them on a regular basis. How do you treat them? How do you treat your Sunday school class? Like it's an optional extra for the week? That, hey, I went once this month and it's good. Did you know that the people that count churches, that 20 years ago, when I started in the ministry, you were counted as an active participant in church if you were in church 2 or more times a week. Do you know what they count? They use for the statistic these days? If you're in church 2 or more times a month, they count you as an active church participant. That means if you show up tonight, don't show up the rest of August, they would still count you as actively participating in church. Now, riddle me this, Batman. Some of you get that. The rest of you are too young. name me one basketball team, one baseball team, football team, cheer squad, dance squad, shopping club, book club, employer, anything else in your life that if you only showed up twice a month, you would be counted as being active, engaged, and a willing and positive participant. There's nothing. The only thing that you can show up that infrequently to and be counted as actively there is funerals to attend or weddings to attend. And yet we end up counting that at churches because, oh, well, you know, there's just so much going on in the world. You know what? If you can consistently make it in front of your TV to watch the Bears play, you can consistently make it to church. If you can consistently make the garage sales every Saturday, you can make it to church. It's not about what life has, it's about the choices that we make. And most of us choose everything else, and since we know God is always there, we decide to wait and we'll catch Him later. Now think about this. Name me one other relationship in your life that works by putting that person on the shelf and saying, I'll catch them later. You can't do your dog that way. But we do our God that way. And it's wrong. But what tends to happen is this. Now we're all, oh yeah, I'm going to make sure I show up for church. I'm going to make sure I'm there. I'm going to get back on the cycle of self-effort. Self-effort doesn't save us. And self-effort doesn't fix us because eventually self gets tired, even with the best of intentions. Instead, what it takes is it takes Jesus to break this cycle. It takes the power of God working in the hearts of us to break this cycle in our lives. And so the first question that you have to answer is this: do I even have a relationship with Christ in the first place? You see, the people of Israel thought that if they could do this as they took over the promised land, they could accomplish what they needed to accomplish simply through their effort rather than through their relationship with God and the empowerment of God in their lives. And we tend to try to do the same thing because that's what a good, hard-working American is going to do. Good, hard-working American needs Jesus just as much as anybody else in this world. Because there is no extra grace that we get to skate by on simply because of the flag we were born under. We're still in desperate need of a cross. So do you have a relationship with Christ? If you come to a point in your life that you've admitted that you're a sinner, which means that you've not done the things that God said you should have done, that there has ever been a point in your life that you have not done that which God would have done if He had been standing there. That's sin. Anything that God would have done that you didn't do, or anything that God would have not done that you did do. From the attitude of your heart to the actions of your hands. That's sin. Ever been gathered with God's people to worship, and your mind keeps drifting to whether or not you're going to make it to the pizza buffet before somebody cleans off all the Hawaiian? Guess what? The Lord would not have been concerned with that. That's a sin. Now, you may be worried about it, but Larry's will make an extra one for you. It's okay. Learn to trust. Have a little faith. Ever put your tithe check in the offering plate and said, there, God must be happy with me because I've bought His affections? Guess what? That's not giving in faith and in trust. Change your heart about how you do. Ever gotten angry with somebody without a reason? And know the fact that they're going 75 and a 55 and you want to go 85 is not a legitimate reason. Some of y'all get mad at me for that on the highway. I look in the rearview mirror, it's like, oh look, I didn't know they knew those words. It's not a legitimate reason. It's sin. All the things that we do that God wouldn't have done. Those are sins. Those are offenses before a holy God. And they buy us His wrath. The wages of sin are death. And if you've never accepted that and surrendered to Christ, you'll never get off the cycle. You'll always be trapped in, well, I'm going to do better. But you'll never do better enough. Okay, I've got a car out. Well, it's not the one here. It's the one at the house. But it's got 2 chips in the windshield. And I can patch it. I haven't put the sealant on it, and it won't get any more broken, but it's still broken. If I were to try to sell it to you, you'd say, well, I'll pay you $100 less because it needs a new windshield. I can put all the effort I want to, and they're not breaking it any farther. It's still broken. Guess what? You can put all the effort you want to, and they're not breaking any further. You're still broken. And guess what's going to happen come this winter? It's going to spider web. I'm going to buy a new windshield. I know this. I'm just putting it off. You know this. You know that you can't fix your life. All you're doing through self-effort is you're trying to put it off a little bit longer and a little bit longer. But eventually, you're going to run out of time. Just like I'm going to run out of windshield, it's going to spider web, and then I'm going to get caught at the next insurance checkpoint that they set up at Chico and whatever that other road is, Atwood. At Chico and Atwood, they're going to write me a ticket because I can't see because there's a line right in front of my eyes. See, eventually it comes due, whether you like it or not. And it's going to come due on you before you're ready for it. So what do you need to do with that? You need to give your life up and accept what Christ has done for you, that He died on the cross for your sins. But most of you have already done that. And so when we start talking about the need for Christ, we all tend to fade into the spot and say, oh, I'm good, that's all taken care of. But here's where there's a problem. Let me see if I've got the next slide right. This is simply a graph of information about, in the past 6 months, how many times did you invite somebody to attend a worship service with you at your church? Now, you may not be able to read all those details, but there's a happy number on there, and it's the next to bottom graph. It says 25% of church-going folks, and this is a survey of Baptists, 25% of Baptists have invited in the last 6 months 3 or more people to join them for church. And that's positive. You know what's frightening? Is if you put the top line with the bottom line, because really and truly, I don't know. You know. You know if you ask somebody to come to church with you. That adds up to 38%. 38% of us, of Baptists as a whole, haven't invited somebody to join us for church in the last 6 months. Now that doesn't mean, parents, that's not the kids that live in your house. You don't invite them, you put them in the car and tell them to come. Okay? So they're bigger than I am. It's okay, you're older, you're smarter. Tell them you're going to get Chick-fil-A, load them up. When you get here, just say, sorry. That's okay. We'll take you to David's Burgers after for lunch. It'll be all right. 38% of us haven't invited somebody to church in the last 6 months. The number's even more frightening if you actually ask about how many of us have told somebody about Jesus. This is just inviting somebody to join you for church. 2/3 of Southern Baptists have never shared their faith with anybody, ever. Haven't invited them to come to know Christ. 1/3 of us have never invited anybody to join us for church. And yet we look at the world and we wonder why the world is falling apart around us. We wonder why the church is falling apart around us. And it's because God gave us a very simple command to keep, and that is to go and tell the world. And we don't even do the first third of it, something that would take a step in that direction of inviting somebody to join us for church. So we're going to try to do something about that. I've been praying about this, and we've been looking at this, and something needs to change. And so one of the things that we're going to do as a church is I'm going to give you a challenge. And up here on the front table, there are some cards that I want everybody to take 5 of. And actually, we're going to put a box of these at the back after the service, and you can come up here and get some, or you can go back there and get some. But I want you to watch a video about this, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more. So this should be...
Hi there, I'm Jesse, the founder of TrueLife.org, and we're here at Thomas Road Baptist Church to help show you how easy it is to evangelize and invite people with these TrueLife.org invitation cards. It's good to see you guys. Happy to be here. Thank you for coming. So we're encouraging evangelism and invitation in churches, not just Thomas Road Baptist Church, but your church as well. I'm sure your pastor probably gave you a TrueLife.org card today to hand out. And these cards are so unique because it takes the fear away from evangelism and invitation. That means that we don't have to be afraid of the questions that might be asked, or the time it's going to take, or not having a starting point. What if the recipient is afraid of going to church? Well, they can easily go online and get free video answers to questions like, how do we get the Bible? Why do bad things happen? Where do you go when you die? Does God love gay people? Is Mormonism true? Are Jehovah's Witnesses right? And the list goes on for any worldview. And then of course they can easily find your church on the Church Finder. Hey Will, so we're pulling up to a gas station right now, and all I need you to do is just go out and simply say, hey, I'd love to have you come to my church on Sunday. If you have any questions, you can go online and get video answers, okay?
Okay.
All right, here we go. God bless you, I'm praying for you, okay?
Let's see what happens. Hi, excuse me, how you ladies doing?
Good, how are you?
Hey, I don't know if you go to a church anywhere in the area, but I'd like to invite you to Thomas Road Church, see here. And if you don't have any time to make it to church right yet, you can see on the back, truelife.org, where you get free video answers to life's hard questions. And there's all kinds of different videos on there to answer questions people have, like, is there a God? And why do we suffer? And things like that. So take a look at it. Remember, the Lord loves you.
Will, do you feel better right now? I mean, do you feel relieved that, at first you feel like a little bit...
A little nervous at first, yeah. But now I know I've given opportunity to people to find answers in God's Word, and that's exciting,
That's awesome. Well, you did a great job.
And they seem to be very open to it.
Sure. Would you suggest the same for people watching?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Go out and do it. It's easy.
Katrina, it's your turn.
Oh,
We're
yes.
gonna have some fun.
Yes.
You ready to do this?
Yes, I'm
We're
a
gonna
bit
go-
nervous though.
You are? Yeah, I'm a little nervous for you too. I know you're gonna do well though.
Because
So,
I've never done this before. I always wanted to, but I'm nervous, but
Well,
I'm gonna do it.
praying for you, sister. I know you're gonna do fine. Here we are. This is good. Hey, you wanna talk? You can talk to her.
Hi, how are you? Yeah, I would love to come, you to come to my church next week.
You don't go to church? You can go online too if you want to. Yeah. Okay. God bless you. So what you do is you keep going. Okay?
Yeah.
And someone else will take the card
Yeah.
since she didn't want to.
Do you go to church?
Sometimes.
Oh, great. That's good. So I would love to see you. Come over to my church next week. And if you're not ready, you can always go onto this website, like truelife.org, and there are some free video answers.
Okay.
There are a lot of questions we have sometimes, and there are a lot of videos explaining those questions, and you can always go and check those videos and have the answers.
Okay.
Yeah. It's nice meeting you. Have a great day. God
You
bless.
too.
Yeah.
Hey, Will. Yeah. Man, we had a great time in there.
Oh, yeah.
Katrina surprised me. I knew she was going to do good, but she did really, really good.
Thank you.
You did.
Well, you know what happened? Initially, there was one lady who didn't want to take the card, and she was like, "No, I'm not gonna come to church." And I was really, but then I didn't give up, and he was with me, and we went on ahead, and we gave the cards to a lot of people, and surprisingly, it wasn't really hard, and they were really receptive, and I loved it. Yeah.
Yes, well, I'm so thankful that you just did my job. I don't have to explain nearly as much anymore to you back in the sanctuaries. We're not a different person than you. We are made in God's image just like you are, and every Christian has the opportunity to do this. And I can promise you from the bottom of my heart that there is nothing better than to share your faith with people. So I'm challenging you today, share your faith, hand out these cards, and see what God can do in your life and in the lives of others.
So here's the challenge. One sec. Is there another slide after that? There we go. Here's the challenge. Every one of you, take a stack of these cards and give out 5 cards between now and next Sunday. Don't just take 5 cards and stick them at the gas pump and leave them there and hope somebody picks them up. If you're going to do that, take 10 cards. Leave 5 cards at the gas pump and personally hand 5 cards to somebody. We've already put about 25 of these out into the wild. Somebody took a stack of them from me last Sunday and already gave them all out. And took another stack from me this morning. It is that simple. Church time is on the card. Sunday morning times are on the card. Sunday night times are not, because there aren't enough lines. I mean, we designed a card that had everything we do on there, and the print was so small that it was like, no. Church name's on there, church website's on there, and on the back it's got the website with the video information. Next Sunday morning in church, I'm going to ask y'all to raise your hands if you gave out your 5 cards. Now, every last one of y'all stood up when we said, and some of you didn't stand up because you can't, and I understand that, but I know from looking at you, you know people that need to know Jesus. So we all know at least one person we can give a card to. And you know what? If the checker at Harvest Foods says that's the 14th card I've gotten this week, that's great. Because hopefully they've gotten at least 5 of them from people that they were willing to listen to and they'll at least consider it. Well, I don't have 4,000 of them anymore, because like I said, we've given out probably 50, 75 of them already. But we started with 4,000 of these things. It is my hope and desire that we'll give out a couple thousand of them in the next couple weeks. To invite people to come. You can go on the website. There's a link to it on our website as far as truelife.org. There's a link to it on our website where you can get on and you can watch all the videos and see what they're talking about, what they're, doctrinally, these people, they're Southern Baptist, right? They're straight down the road with us. Okay, Thomas Road Baptist Church. You may not know which church that is, but they used to have a pastor by the name of Jerry Falwell who passed away. Their pastor's name is now, I don't remember which of his sons. One of them got to university, one of them got to church, but the church is doing well and they're telling people about Jesus. Okay? They're solid doctrinally. There's nothing on there that there's a problem with. The reason we didn't start this 6 weeks ago is because I spent 6 weeks watching every last one of the videos. Okay? Y'all, I don't jump lightly into things. Okay? I don't jump off cliffs that, and without knowing what's down there. We can do this, and I want to challenge you all to do this. You may be very, very comfortable going from that into, as a matter of fact, while I've got you here, let me ask you a question. You know for certain that you have eternal life and you go to heaven when you die. And so we said, nobody can know that. Actually, yes, they can. If you look at, what's one Bible verse that we're in the South, 95% of people know. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whosoever believes in him will not perish but have everlasting life. You can know, because God gave his Son. That if you believe, you can know. It's actually what John later says in 1 John. These things have I written unto you that believe on the name of the Son of God, that you may know that you have eternal life. So how do you know? If you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, believe in your heart that God has raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Everybody, you don't know what I've done. For everyone who calls upon the name of the Lord will be saved. He who puts his trust in him will never be put to shame. But the challenge to you as a church member is this: how can they call on him whom they have not believed? And how can they believe in him of whom they have not heard? And how will they hear unless someone proclaims the truth? You see, King James rendered that as unless someone preaches, and so we all tend to put that back on, well, it's my job. It's not. It's all of our job. Paul's not writing a pastor manual when he writes the church at Rome. He's writing to the church. How are they going to know unless somebody tells them? So that's my challenge to you. 5 cards between now and next Sunday, personally handed to somebody. You want to take an extra 10 and just leave them? That's fine. You want to take some and leave them along with a generous tip when you go out to eat? Don't stiff somebody and say, well, I didn't leave you 15%, but I left you eternity. If you're going to do that, let me find some cards for a different church. Okay? Don't do that and attach our name to it. You'll see people this week that you can invite and say, well, but I don't. Tell them, and if you've got any questions, there may be answers here, and if you can't find answers there, come to church and we'll do our best for you. I want to want to challenge you this week. You can do this. You need to do this. Let the power of God inside of you, let the Holy Spirit inside of you, as you follow after Christ, let that break the cycle of the, well, maybe one day I'll get around to telling somebody. Because if we're going to break the cycle of sin, falling apart, a little bit of self-effort to try to drag us out of the gutter, and we fall back into it, it's going to take Jesus. And nobody's going to know him if we don't tell. So let's do that. Let's pray together. Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for your love, your grace, and your mercy. We pray, Lord God, that you will help us to follow hard after you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Coming out of the time of our service, we call our time of invitation. Carla and Brooke Dennis are going to come. They're going to lead us as we sing. But what we're going to do in this time, we're going to sing, I have decided to follow Jesus. You may need to come and ask for prayer for something. We stand at the front, we're glad to talk with you, to pray with you. You just need to make this, otherwise just make this your prayer, that you have decided that you're going to follow Jesus, that you're not going to turn back, you're not going to step aside from that, that you're going to follow after him. So we're going to stand together, we're going to sing, we're going to stand in front, we're glad to talk with you, to pray with you.